Okay, good morning, 8th grade.
Good morning.
Today, I gave you all your handout on internal and external conflicts. We've been reading the diary of Anne Frank. We finished Act 1. We're into Act 2. We've been talking about internal and external conflicts. Yes?
Yes.
Anyone have questions about what we've read so far, the end of Act 1, beginning of Act 2? No. Okay, not really. All right. So, today, the purpose of today's lesson is to focus on those conflicts. In the Diary of Anne Frank, we've got 8 people living in the attic where there are a lot of conflicts. Anyone going anywhere for Thanksgiving this week, next week? Anyone having family at their house for Thanksgiving? Okay. Do you like having family over? But are you glad when they leave?
Yes. Oh, yes.
Imagine being the Franks and the Van Dans where you are in an attic for 2 years and no one can leave. There are conflicts. So your little Thanksgiving break, there's, keep rolling.
Is Emily in this class?
Yeah. Emily's in 7th grade. This is perfect. Okay. So Thanksgiving we can get rid of our relatives or they will leave. Here, they're not leaving. So you're still going to have conflicts whether you're Thanksgiving meal. What if someone's sitting in your chair and you don't say anything? Is that internal or external conflict? Internal, because you're not saying anything. What if someone's sitting in your chair and you say, do this, my chair? External. You better get out of my chair. Okay, so we're going to focus on Anne Frank. And the purpose of this, like I said, internal and external conflict. Every character in the attic has a conflict, whether it's internal, external. Everyone at one point or time in this 2+ year period has an issue. That's normal. The standard we're going to learn is citing textual evidence, and you're going to do that today when you're giving me page numbers and lines, that most strongly supports an analysis of what the text says explicitly. So we're going to find the lines that are telling us these conflicts, and we're going to cite them, and then we're going to put in our own words why these are actually conflicts. So if you look at the handout I gave you, make sure your name is on the top. I already put your homeroom and your date. I helped you out with that. And then if you continue to read, it gives you the definition. So we have internal conflict. A character's internal struggles. This type of conflict is important because the reader gets a better understanding of a character's personality by knowing what he or she struggles with personally, and it's self, person versus self. So by knowing that you're annoyed that someone's sitting in your chair, do you go with the flow, or are you kind of uptight a little bit? Yeah, you could be uptight, or just, you're very particular, that's my chair. Get out of my chair. So by knowing what's going on inside of Anne's head or Peter's head, we know a little bit more about their personality. So an example from the play, turn to page 165 in your books. Line 263. Anne has an internal conflict when she tells Peter, you're making a big mistake about me. I do it all wrong. I say too much. I go too far. I hurt people's feelings. So she knows that she's quack, that she can't just tone it down. Mary.
What line is it?
It's 263.
On
And sometimes it's page 165, and sometimes it's like a paragraph number. So if you read the handout I gave you, it explains in my own words, because you're going to put it in your own words, why that's a conflict. And hopefully they'll pop back up, but if not, just look at your handout. Anne realizes that she has a difficult time keeping her feelings and opinions to herself, which sometimes results in arguments with others, ultimately hurting the feelings of others, usually her mother. She has the most conflict with her mom. Anne is struggling with her outspoken nature, so she wants to change it, but it's hard. She has nowhere to go, no place where she can get away with it from everybody. Oh, I lost my internet. Okay, external conflict. That definition, it's between a character and an external force. Person versus versus a group. And you can also have person versus nature, person versus technology. Do we have any person versus technology in this one?
No, it's pretty old.
It's older. So the example, there's an external conflict between Peter and Dussel when Dussel tells Peter that his cat is never coming back because already someone has had a nice big dinner from the cat. And that's on page 161. Yes?
I love the radio and the telephone. Is that
Oh,
technology?
it is, but as far as, they didn't have any conflicts with the technology in this play. There was no conflict with the technology. Let me try to get my AirPlay back on. I lost my Wi-Fi. So there was an ongoing conflict between Peter and Dussel about the cat. And Dussel basically said, look, your cat's gone, someone ate him.
Oh, I bet it was Mr.
And that was very upsetting to Peter. So, yay. So, if you look at the narration, which is page 161, line 101, the narration states that Peter is furious, inarticulate, which means he can't speak. He is so mad that he starts toward Dussel as if to hit him. Does he hit him?
No.
No. But that is a person versus person conflict because Dussel's pushing the buttons, your cat's dead. Peter wants to whack him, but he can't. Well, he shouldn't. So the explanation. Clearly, Dussel enjoys pushing Peter's buttons, especially about the missing cat. Peter tries to keep his temper, tries to keep his cool, his temper under, there's more. His temper under control, but it's not always easy. This was not their first run-in based on the cat, so that's person versus person. If you look on page 2, there's a chart. And you're going to fill in this chart, but I've taken the examples I just gave you for the internal and the external conflict. So there's my internal. So I've got my character, Anne. I actually wrote the quote. I cited the page number and the line. I wrote the type of conflict. Then I put in my own words why it's a conflict. Then I have Peter. Same thing. I wrote what I did on that first page, the evidence that supports my claim that that's a conflict. Remember, you have to find your evidence. That's an external person versus person. And then I talk about Dussel, how he enjoys pushing the buttons and how that's upsetting to Peter. Now we're going to do one together, Otto Frank. And if you look on the bottom of the page, it says for Otto Franks, you're going to look on page 103, lines 11 through 19. So take a look at that. Take a minute. Does anyone have any questions on internal and external conflict before I have you do this? So take a minute, look on that page, look at those lines, look for Otto's conflict. What is his conflict? Write those words down, and then tell me internal or external, and then in your own words, why is it a conflict? So again, take a minute, and I'll walk around to see if anyone needs help. So again, write the information on your chart, and then I'll have a volunteer write it on the iPad. So remember, external, you're having a conflict with something outside of who you are, an external force. Internal, it's yourself you're having your conflict with. So now is he having a conflict with himself or somebody? So you choose to be happy, but it's hard to be happy. Okay, so put it on your chart now. Yep, now you need to transfer the information on your chart, because then you're going to have to do the next 3 characters with your shoulder partner. So actually write the words in the lines that show the conflict. I already cited the page for you and the lines for you, 103, 11 through 19. All right, there's it. Because he's a visual man. That's internal.
Yeah, that's
Because he could choose to be happy, but isn't that hard when you're watching him dead? Exactly. We had you on the right track. So your main thing is just how it's hard for him because he's a big old man from everything that's happened. All right, another minute, and then I'm going to have someone write this on the iPad. For when you're quoting which part? Write down the bulk of it that actually is the evidence from the dialogue that supports the conflict. So you don't have to write down the whole thing. Yeah, don't forget, you're gonna write down the actual information that you're finding in those lines that supports that it's a conflict. You guys should all have writing in your boxes, just like I have typing in the boxes above, you should all have writing in your boxes. And if you're not gonna write the entire quote, that's fine, just write the part of the quote that shows you that Otto has a conflict. God bless you. So lines 11 through 19, those are a lot of lines, so I don't expect you to write down every single word. Oops. Erase. All right. Looks like most of you guys are almost done. One more minute. Did I volunteer to? Yep. So now you're just gonna put in your own words. Why is he bitter? Why is there a conflict? That's where you actually use the dialogue. See, text, evidence.
I was watching, I just do
You
it.
flip it. Yeah. Just flip it. Well, some of it's not relevant, so what you can do, you just start.
It's an answer.
Just do this. So I can't speak Amsterdam. Too many memories. I'm a bitter old. Or just put the relevant information. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Ellipsis.
Yes, ellipsis. Excellent. All right. Who is ready to give us their answer? All right, Gracie, so what do you have for us? So read what you have. Read the quote.
I can't stay in Amsterdam. It has too many memories for me. Everywhere there's something. The house we lived in, the school, the street organ playing out there. I'm not the person you used to know me. I'm a bitter old woman.
Okay, so instead of having to write all that, I'm just gonna take a picture because she was right on. What type of conflict was that? Internal. So why is that an internal conflict?
Because
Sorry, I know.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my goodness.
Orientational?
There we go. All right, go. Why was it internal?
because he kept doing it to himself in his mind and everywhere he went.
Oh, hi.
Hello.
Okay. So this was all in Otto's mind. Could he have chosen to be happy and to be okay with everything that happened? Yes. But why wasn't he? What happened?
His whole family died.
His whole family died. So that was internal. He couldn't stay in Amsterdam. He was bitter. It was too hard for him. So Mr. Frank is bitter because he can't escape his sorrow. He says that basically everywhere he turns is a memory. So perfect. Anyone have a question? Anyone not understand that? Anyone get a different answer? No. Okay. So now, you guys are going to work with your shoulder partner. You've got Edith, Mr. Van Dam, and Mrs. Van Dam. Find one conflict for each of those. Just focus on Act 1. And then do what we did for the guided practice, where you do the page number, the line number, give me some of the evidence from the line. You don't have to write down every single word necessarily, but the main part that supports, the evidence that supports your claim. And then internal, external. And then put in your own words. Why is it a conflict? So again, you're just focusing on these last ones, and then when we're done, we're gonna go over them when we're done. Oh, we did all that. And then I will collect these for a classwork grade. I'm gonna walk around. If you want to sit elsewhere with your partner, you may, or you can stay in your desk. So we're doing these last three. And I'll keep the screen up here to remind you what the conflicts are.
Let's do this.
Okay.
Wait, this isn't the right page. There's only one line right now. Oh,
And so a lot of it with the external, when you're gonna have arguments back and forth. So you're gonna have dialogue going back and forth. Just pick some of the stronger lines that represent the conflict. You don't need to write every single part of the conflict, otherwise you'd be writing the next sentence, and we're not taking that long to do. Work with your partner, work with your partner. Yeah, if you want to move to a beanbag, you can move to a beanbag. You can stay where you are, but stay on task.
Oh my goodness.
It's like, what is the best, guys?
If you need me to re-explain the conflicts, I'll be happy to do it. I'm going to visit all my friends here. So you're just doing those last three characters. We want to. The whole idea is you need to find a conflict for every character that I listed.
Did you know that smoke is flying?
I would say,
Go ahead.
Everyone is from
Wow, we're going to
Exactly. That's basically.
train to quiet? Yes. Very strange. You're a man with very strange.
yeah.
Don't forget to put the line number or paragraph number also.
We both are on camera. We must advertise the chemical. Nope. There we go.
Yeah, because some of them you're going to be jumping around because you don't need to write everything down because that'd be too much. Just find like the main lines that show users.
Hey, I just wrote that in the wrong place.
So now after looking at all these conflicts from Anne Frank, I expect your Thanksgivings to be conflict-free.
Oh, yeah.
Or that part of Thanksgiving, a little bit of conflict.
I know what the conflict's about.
It's part of life, but you gotta do your best to smooth it out.
Alright, let's. Wait, why are we doing Mr. Van Dam?
So it's person versus person.
Edith, there is actually, it's an active. I'm just doing this one. I'm doing active one first. Whatever you say.
Yeah.
First active.
And who's your conflict with? What was that whole scene about? Yes.
So we're still. Okay, let's get that in.
I just passed it.
Okay, you just tell me what you found, what you find.
Remember, you're gonna turn these in for a classwork grade. So I only need to collect one of your team's papers. And then when you get them back, you can transfer the answers if you need to. Last one, excellent. Alright, where are you guys back here? On your chart. Okay.
It's all.
Another few minutes, maybe 5 minutes or less. Then we're gonna share one of these answers on the board to make sure we're on the right track.
Oh, you did?
Would it be internal or external?
Which one?
Mr. Van
Page
Dan's
one, 176.
So his smoking makes him corner.
18.
So it's internal.
Well, yeah, and the whole thing with that is too, he wants the cigarette, so that's an external, but then they get the soy and some trouble, we're not there yet. So right now,
17.
that's his own issue, but it spills over to his other issue, so that, if he's embroiled in an argument, that would be external.
30. 17 to 30.
two different types of conflicts?
Absolutely. There can think about it. There are multiple conflicts for these people.
Yeah.
Some are internal, some are external. So all I have to do is find one for each person that I listed. Because there are definitely multiple answers. Just find one. Alright, so you guys are on the last one. Excellent. You guys, last one. Dominic, you guys are on the last one?
Yeah.
Okay. You guys on your last one? Yes. Yes. Great answer. Alright, 3 more minutes. 3 more minutes.
We're second to last one. Almost done with that one.
Okay.
Yeah, you want to second last one, the first one?
Alright, we're going to have a volunteer in a minute. Put the conflict from Mrs. Frank.
That's not necessary.
Joey's my volunteer. So, that is Mrs. Frank speaking. Do we have anything where Ann speaks? So that's Ann.
Yes.
So I do new quotes. So we know that there's different speakers. I put Mrs. Frank and Ann external. Okay, is she being rude, right? Okay. All right, is everyone done with Mrs. Frank, with Eve Frank?
Yes.
All right, Joey, go ahead and put what your team has for Mrs. Frank. And you might have a different conflict, that's okay. Then the other conflicts we'll just talk about verbally, we won't write them down. So when he's done writing this, we'll go over his conflict, and then we'll talk about the results of the other conflicts, and then I'll collect these for password break. But remember, I only need one per team. Just make sure your names are on the top of the paper. And make sure you tell me the speaker.
Both names, or just?
Well, he's putting 2 speakers. Since he has an external conflict between 2 people. Yeah. So that's Mrs. Frank speaking at first.
Yes.
So Ann, you must not behave in that way. And then Ann speaks, it was an accident. Anyone can have an accident. And Joey, what was happening in this scene?
Anne was being rude to Mrs. Van Dam
Why, what happened?
because Anne accidentally poured a drink onto her fur coat and Mrs. Van Dam got mad.
So what type of conflict?
That's it. External.
Person versus, yep. And he basically just explained it to us, so I'm not gonna make him write the explanation. Did anyone have anything different for Mrs. Frank? Nope, okay. All right, let's talk about some of these other ones. So now we have, number 5, we've got Mr. Van Dam. Who wants to share their Mr. Van Dam conflict? Okay, so what page are you on? Oh, Joey, don't forget to write your page number on that too in your lines.
I was on page
121. Okay. So go ahead.
And, for line 152, isn't it bad enough here without you sprawling all over the place? And so that was directed to Anne, so it would be an external conflict.
It'd be an external conflict. So why was it an external what was his problem? Tell me in your own words what his problem was.
Anne would get on his nerves every day, and so.
Every day. Yeah, every day she'd get on his nerves. So that'd be external.
And then for 155, am I smoking? Do you see me smoking? That would be an internal conflict, person versus self.
Some of you guys have put the smoking as internal because that's just something he's doing. It's on the front now. And that makes him ornery to others. But when that angry behavior gets him head to head with another person, then what type of conflict would it be?
External.
That would be external. But if it's just his own issue from not smoking, he's very irritable, that's his own internal conflict. But once he starts taking it on others, that'd be external. So good. All right. Anyone have anything different? No. Okay. How about our last one now is Mrs. Van Dam. Blake, tell me the page and the line so everyone can get to our page.
It was on page
124. What lines?
I can tell you for this. What do you care? It's not yours. You know what this coat costs.
So who's speaking? Mrs. Van Dam and Mr. Van Dam. Okay, so they're talking about
Her coat.
what just happened to the coat.
Anne was
Okay, so it's still
walking-
part of that scene. Good. So what type of conflict was that?
It was external.
External. Person versus...
Person.
Good. Okay, good. Anyone have anything different they want to share? Okay, so make sure your partner's name is on it and your name is on it. If you have any last minute things you need to add, you can add. And then I will collect them when you're done. I'll come around and collect them. And that's it.